And if they're smart, if they're paying attention, they'll see that Virginia this is the third-ranked team that Virginia's played this year. They beat one of them, Louisville. They lost to UCLA because UCLA had 3 defensive touchdowns, but they should have beat UCLA. And this is a Virginia team that now has a chance to make some noise in their division, the ACC Coastal. And hopefully the selection committee will not look at this as a win that BYU barely eked out over a weak ACC team. Hopefully they'll pay attention to what Virginia does, because I think this is a quality win.
So, Trevor, you think an undefeated BYU still has a chance to end up in the Miami Beach Bowl?
Yes, that's possible. That is very possible. And it's not that BYU wouldn't deserve to be playing on New Year's Day. BYU's schedule is tough. I mean, this is a tough schedule to get through undefeated, really tough. But they won't get credit.
Right.
I mean, Houston is still one of the better teams in the country, and yet because they lost to Texas San Antonio in the opener, really laid an egg. I don't think BYU will get credit for Houston for that win. Texas is down this year. That's unfortunate. Central Florida returns almost the entire team that beat Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl last year.
Yet they're 1-2.
Right, and that's the problem. And so they won't get credit for beating good teams. And so that's what I worry about.
Trevor, you've mentioned the penalties and obviously the fact that BYU is not going to get maybe the due credit they deserve because of the teams that they have beat thus far. But what ultimately is your number one concern moving forward for this team, if not one of those two things you've already addressed?
The only concern I have, other than depth, because we saw what happened when Bronson Kafusi wasn't there. I think his absence is also a big reason that BYU's defense couldn't get Virginia's offense off the field. Now, BYU can't afford to lose people. But other than that, it is the penalties. Because BYU is a disciplined team from a standpoint of alignment and assignment. I've been breaking down teams like Clemson and South Carolina and teams all over the country for SportsCenter. And one of the common themes is that a lot of the big plays that they give up aren't because of a great play by the other team. It's because the defense or the special teams had a busted assignment. And the great example, the best example, is in the opener, Clemson against Georgia. Todd Gurley, the Georgia running back, scored 4 long touchdowns, and one of them was a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Where on all 4 of those long touchdowns by Gurley, it was a missed assignment by Clemson's defense or coverage team that opened the gate. And all Gurley had to do was sprint through it with no opposition in front of him. So Gurley gets all kinds of credit, but really it was missed assignments. BYU is as good as any team in the country of putting a cougar in front of the opponent. If you want to beat BYU, you have to beat a cougar who's in the right place, doing the right thing with the right technique, because they just don't mess up. And the penalties are the only thing that takes away from that discipline. So it's the penalties that worry me, because once again, BYU, this is a very talented team, but any team that commits this many penalties opens themselves up to losing games against teams that are not as good as them.
Through 4 games, Taysom, I did it like Mike Walisa did on our show last week.
There you go.
Taysom Hill in the Heisman conversation, the Taysman. Where do you think he fits in the Heisman conversation right now, Trevor?
I think he has a very good chance to be in New York. He had a couple of plays against Virginia. One was that touchdown run to the right side, where he must have broken 4 or 5 tackles, and that's a good defense. That's a good defense. It wasn't like he ran through, some little itty bitty school that doesn't have any players. And
Little Sisters of the Poor or whatever.
Well, I don't want to denigrate the Little Sisters of the Poor. They've got some skills too.
Ohio State did that enough.
Yeah, but it's recognized. I mean, it's recognized when you walk around ESPN. And I'm about to head down there right now to look at some more tape. People talk about Taysom Hill and about how impressed they are at what he does. I mean, he's improving as a passer. He's getting more big plays, putting the ball down the field better this year. And his running is ridiculous. I mean, he's one of the best running backs in the country, and they recognize that. And if they recognize it around here, I'm sure the Heisman voters are paying attention as well. And this is where being independent and having the deal with ESPN, the relationship with ESPN to put Taysom on national television in most of his games really helps in that. Now, will he win it? Once again, it goes back to schedule. You know, people will look at the marquee brand name teams on the schedule and not see enough of them, I think, to give Taysom the benefit of the doubt. But I think it's clear that he deserves consideration. And if the team continues to win, I believe he should be in New York.
ESPN college football analyst and BYU national champion Trevor Matich on BYU Sports Nation. Trevor, Taysom was referred to by Max Vallis, one of Virginia's stud linebackers, as the best athlete that guy has ever played against. Those were his words. He played against Jameis Winston. He's played against Brett Hundley. How much do you read into that when you're looking at the Virginia stud linebacker saying that Taysom is the guy that he has played against?
I think that's very gracious of him to say. And I will tell you this, that knowing defensive players, they don't throw out compliments lightly. And when they say things like that, they know how it will sound and how it will be taken. And to me, it's the best compliment you can get as an offensive player. It's not something that comes from a commentator or even from your coach or your own teammates, but from your opponents. Because your opponents, they don't know you, they don't like you. They've got no reason to promote you after the game. Before the game, sure, they want to butter you up so everybody thinks that if they beat you, that they beat a great player. But after the game, you know, that's the kind of thing that is, you know, one of the greatest compliments you can get. I mean, the best compliment I ever got was in the NFL, and it was from an opponent who didn't say a word. Actually, no, he did say a word. This was when I was playing left tackle for the Colts. I was practicing inside at center and guard, and our left tackle got hurt, so I had to move outside. And most of the time I had to play against Bruce Smith, Hall of Famer.
No.
Well, every once in a while, Cornelius Bennett would come over there, who's just a Pro Bowler, but not a Hall of Famer, right? At least I don't think so.
Just a Pro Bowler.
And he came over there, and that was like a breath of fresh air when Bruce Smith went away. And it was just a Pro Bowler instead of a Hall of Famer I had to block, right? Well, he came over there on 2nd and long and then 3rd and long. And he thought he was going to have it easy because, you know, I wasn't used to playing left tackle at that time. At least I wasn't practicing out there. And the first time he rushed against me, I just totally stoned him, right? And he was embarrassed by it. I could tell. He was mad about it. So now it's 3rd and long. It was incomplete. So I come back up to the line for 3rd down, and he actually was already in his stance as I was approaching the line, digging his feet into the ground. I thought that was odd because it was artificial turf. But anyway, he did it. And on that snap, I stoned him again. And he looked at me and said, "Nice job," and walked away. And that was the nicest compliment, just that, right there, from that opponent. Because for him to say that to me and acknowledge that I whipped him twice was just awesome. And so Taysom, getting that kind of compliment, that kind of recognition from opponent, I think says more than anything that could be written or anything that could be said in the media.
Well, Trevor, great stuff as always, and nice job.
All right, thanks, man.
We'll see you, Trevor.
Nicely done.
That is
Nice job.
That's nicely done, Jerem.
Nice job.